Hello, fight fans. Seattle Mike here. Everybody, please hit that like button or I will come to your place of employment and heckle you mercilessly. Make sure you're subscribed and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever we drop a new video or go live. Today, I want to talk about one of the guys who inspired me to become a martial artist, to learn how to fight, and just get a passion for martial arts. And that is the great Bruce Lee. Did a lot of great things, wrote his own fight scenes, really liked to work really detailed with all the stuntmen, doing his own stunts. Very talented guy, of course. Came up with Jeet Kune Do. He was one of the first, if not the first guy to say, I don't care about styles, let's put everything together. So a lot of people say that Bruce Lee is the grandfather of mixed martial arts. And Dana White has even said, hey, he might be the grandfather of mixed martial arts. So how would Bruce Lee stack up in the UFC? In the original UFC and UFC 1, when nobody knew anything and he's just coming in, let's say a prime Bruce Lee, 28-30, he probably would have done pretty well. There's a few guys that might have given him some issues. I don't really know how he would have done with a hoist, but let's talk about some of Bruce Lee's weaknesses and why I think he might not have been champion in the UFC. I don't think he would have been champion, and I'm not sure if he would have even been a top 10 fighter. Let's talk about a grappling guy, Judo Gene LeBell. When Bruce Lee was on the set of Green Hornet, he was notoriously tough on stuntmen. A lot of guys were very irritated with him, so one of the directors knew Judo Gene LeBell, and Judo Gene LeBell was working as a stuntman at the time, so they decided to call in Gene to work with Bruce on the set. Well, when they introduced the two, when Bruce went to shake Gene's hand, he shook his hand with one hand, the other hand reaches down, picks up Bruce, puts him on his shoulder, and starts running around the set. Now, Bruce cannot get down. Bruce cannot do anything. Bruce has no idea what's going on right now. And Bruce has been training martial arts, pretty much his whole life here. He was somewhere in between 25 and 30, I believe, at that time. And he starts yelling at Gene LeBell. He says, put me down or I'm going to kill you. And Gene LeBell infamously says, I can't put you down because if I put you down, you'll kill me. Well, the moral of the story of this was Bruce Lee, he was a great martial artist when it came to striking. But because of how he grew up, how he was raised, and the martial arts he was exposed to at the time, Wing Chun Kung Fu, Tai Chi, some other things, he had a blind spot when it came to grappling. Now, would he have been able to cover that blind spot quick enough to compete with some of the guys in the UFC? Bruce Lee was said to have walked around between 130 and 141 pounds, depending. So I think he could have ended up in one of two weight classes, and maybe both. First, let's start out with the bantamweights. You have now champion Aljamain Sterling. Very good wrestling. I think he would have given Bruce a lot of problems. Peter Yan, more complete fighter. He could have probably stood with Bruce for a while. I don't know that anybody would have beaten Bruce when it came to striking as far as the guys here. But Yan, that ground and pound is brutal. And I don't think Bruce would have really had an answer for that. Guys like TJ Dillashaw, I think, would have given him problems. TJ can wrestle as well. Probably stand a little bit. with Bruce, probably maybe not outstrike him, but maybe hold his own enough until he got it to the ground. Guys like Dominic Cruz, that would have been a really fun fight. With the footwork of Dominic Cruz and Bruce, I think those two, they would have either loved each other or wanted to kill each other. And it's hard to say because they're both, very opinionated, both very strong personalities. I think I would give Bruce the edge against Dominic, just because stylistically, I think it would end up being a striking match, and I think Bruce would figure out how to take care of him there. A good match would have been against Song Yadong. I think Bruce would have taken him now. Song's only 24 years old. So, the future is bright. Of course, a match between him and Marlon Rice would have been very fun because Bruce only said, a street fight is going to be quick. It's going to be like 10, 15 seconds, definitely under a minute. Bruce hadn't really seen anything like what the UFC is and the people that trained up. That's a little bit about the bantamweight division, though. I think he would have beaten up Sean O'Malley pretty bad, just stylistically, and the fact that Sean is not the most durable guy. I think Dominic would have had some issues too. I think Bruce would have attacked those knees. I think he would have been ruthless as far as that's concerned. We can go to flyweight. I think Bruce would have had some fun fights here. I would have loved to have seen him and Manel Kape. I would give Bruce the advantage there, but Manel might be the most versatile striker in this flyweight division, though. And as I'm making this video in December of 2021, people who didn't watch him over in Ryzen and other places maybe are not familiar with Manel Kape. Maybe as you're watching this now, in the future, maybe you'll be more familiar with him. I think he's going to make a big splash in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight winning streak right now. How would have Bruce done against guys like Kai Kara France? I think he would have done pretty well against him. Cody Garbrandt, Cody can wrestle as well, but I think he would have gotten into a striking match with Bruce, and especially how Cody's chin's been lately. I think, Bruce would have taken him out of there. Davison Figueiredo, that would be a really fun match. If Davison used any grappling, I think, Bruce would have some issues there. But, let's go first to a couple former champions of the flyweight division. Of course, longtime champion Demetrius Johnson. I think Bruce would have struggled mightily with that. I really don't see him beating Demetrius Johnson. Same thing with Henry Cejudo. The grappling and everything, I think just would have been a weakness that Bruce would have had a real hard time overcoming. And then Brandon Moreno with his wrestling. I mean, Bruce, he might have caught him when, they were on their feet. But you get this to the ground, Bruce he didn't have the grappling skills. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but it is what it is. Like I said, when Judo Gene LaBelle picked up Bruce and ran him around the stadium, Bruce had no idea what was going on. He had no idea what to do. And at that age of a martial artist, it would have been really hard for him to catch up when it came to grappling, especially in the lighter weights that are much more technical. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, look at, the short time it took guys like Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou to get better, that Randy Couture started at an older age. Well, let me dispel all of that right now. Cyril Gane, for one thing, was a great kickboxer. And at heavyweight, it's just much easier to past that learning gap, and it's power and strength and physicality is just such a bigger thing. There's so much more knockouts at heavyweight, and it just takes one shot. Same thing with Francis. He had done some boxing, but the guy's just so strong, and he's got that that touch of death. Now that, he picked up wrestling fairly quickly with Kamaru Usman, you could say maybe Bruce could do that, but I just think those guys at that weight are probably too skilled. And let's go to Randy Couture. Like I said, Randy Couture started in the UFC, 33 years old. If Bruce had started then or earlier, would he have caught up? It's hard to say, but a couple of things about Randy Couture. For one, he was a light heavyweight, 205, and fought at heavyweight. When he became the oldest champion ever, he was a heavyweight. Two, he had boxed in the military, which Bruce had the striking, but Randy Couture had a long and illustrious wrestling career. He grew up as a wrestler, and he already knew the wrestling and the grappling on everything that gave a lot of guys a lot of problems. Picked up the striking, a little bit. Never ended up being the greatest striker, but, it was sufficient most of the time until he got it to the ground. So I don't think Bruce ends up being champion in either division. I think he comes in and probably has some fun fights, probably ends up having a couple super fights if he had, the celebrity in today's world that he had back then, hopefully minus, the racist undertones of the 60s and 70s. So, yeah, I think it would have been fun. But this one, I don't think Bruce makes it. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see you fine asses next time.